Everyone who is a member of Toastmasters knows that is where leaders are made. That statement is only true when members are active in their Toastmasters participation and strategic with their Toastmasters membership. Thousands of members around the world were strategic in their Toastmasters membership. They joined Toastmasters to become a better leader. They used their Toastmasters experiences to get leadership positions in their careers. They have come to recognize that what you do and who you become in Toastmasters can be beneficial to leadership opportunities that you experience at work. One such member is our guest speaker, who is Cassandra, Diva of Dialog Lee. She started her corporate career as an administrative professional and left it as a mid-level manager thanks to Toastmasters. She learned to practice the skills of being a CEO thanks to leadership positions in Toastmasters. She even gained the confidence needed to leave her corporate America job and run her entrepreneurial business full time thanks to Toastmasters. Today, this two-time distinguished Toastmaster will share with you 7 habits of effective leaders that you learn and use inside and outside of Toastmasters. Please put your hands together and give a big Beyond the Seas welcome to the first ever District Director for District 103 Toastmasters, Cassandra, Diva of Dialog Lee, with the 7 habits of highly effective leaders and Toastmasters.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters, especially Beyond the Seas Toastmaster members, and also our guests from around the district as well as around the city. Or I should even say around the world, since we have some New York visitors today. Everyone, it gives me pleasure to present to you this conversation about the 7 habits of highly effective leaders and Toastmasters. In Toastmasters, we recognize that it gives us the opportunity to use transferable skills and experiences for our personal lives as well as for our careers. Well, there are some members who join Toastmasters and they tend not to take advantage of that opportunity. Today, I'm going to share with you what I consider to be 7 habits, 7 skills, 7 traits that I've observed over my 20-year experience in Toastmasters, in which I believe you'll be more able to not only operate as a leader in Toastmasters, you'll also be able to operate as a leader on your job. First, let me say happy anniversary to me. Woohoo! Why am I excited about today? Well, literally October 31st, 2002 was the last day I worked in corporate America. As our Toastmaster mentioned, I gained the confidence, I gained the leadership, I gained the awareness that I needed in order to run my business full time thanks to Toastmasters. I started my business when I was working in corporate America, and I was working my business part time, primarily because I was managing a theater ensemble. Later in my business, I restructured and I said, hey, I want to establish my career as a full-time corporate trainer and professional speaker. I should be a part of my own company. I still was working my business part-time, if you will, because I was working full-time. I would do the workshops on the weekend. I would do workshops in the evenings. And eventually I decided I was ready to take that plunge, as some people would say. I said I was ready to follow my dreams. I've always had a passion of teaching through speaking. Having my own business gave me the opportunity to make it a reality. Yet practicing management skills and leadership skills in the various roles I had an opportunity to partake in, thanks to Toastmasters, gave me the opportunity to one day be before an audience, as you see there on the screen. Yes, that's me, literally in front of my professional audience for management, Some of them are first-time managers. They were with me to learn how to use leadership skills and balance it with the management philosophy so they could be more effective. Take a peek, and I'm going to see if I can bring up an annotator here. Do you notice something here on my desk? Uh, yes, I'm highlighting the fact that whenever I teach my classes, I let my audiences know I am a part of Toastmasters. I am showing them transferable speaking and communication skills when I teach my leadership sessions. I'm also teaching them transferable leadership while they're seeing me before them leading and advising and guiding in my seminars. Toastmasters has definitely been a great experience for me. And I am glad that today I recognize it's that anniversary. It's been 18 years, everyone, October 31st, 2002, and here I am today. Toastmasters is wonderful. Now, as I begin to move my slide to the next, and actually, I guess I should make the attempt to clear this annotation, right? And this is what I also love about Toastmasters. It is a learn by doing environment, and we get a chance to learn and experience all while we are in the moment. And you notice I learned for the first time how to clear an annotation in a Zoom meeting. I'm proud. You're also going to be proud because as you go throughout this session with me, you're going to recognize that you are a leader inside and outside of Toastmasters. I am simply going to use this session in letting you know that you can maximize this environment, this Toastmasters environment that is designed for where leaders are made. That's you. We'll talk about how to maximize the environment. I also want to share with you, as I mentioned, those 7 habits in which I've observed various members and leaders have used right here in Toastmasters that they were able to use outside in the real world. I'll even give you some of my experiences with these 7 habits too. That way you can see it's not only doable in the Toastmasters environment, it's also doable in the real world. And last but not least, I want to motivate you. I want to highlight for you ways in which you can really maximize this opportunity to become more of an effective leader for your job, within your career, and for your Toastmaster club. 7 habits of highly effective leaders is definitely transferable, and you will learn what those habits are. We are in this session virtually. Therefore, there are certain key points I want to keep in mind for you. We are virtual, which means you will be able to participate with me via the chat box. Primarily, right now, as I'm in the content mode, you can put any comments that you want, any reaction icons that you want in the chat box or using those reactions. Although I may not be able to see what's there right now because I'm in content mode, I will see it when we get into Q&A mode. As a matter of fact, speaking of Q&A, if any questions come up, type them in the chat box or save them until the Q&A section. I will, at the Q&A segment, shut down the PowerPoint, go into where I can see all of you, as well as be able to view the chat box. That way, any thoughts, any questions, or any comments that you have that come up, I'll definitely be able to answer them in the Q&A. Speaking of Q&A, if you are verbal, meaning if I say, hey, unmute your microphone and speak your question, I want you to be as concise as you can. We recognize that time is going and we have some other things to do beyond my presentation. Therefore, I want to make certain that we are thinking about making the opportunity available for everyone who has a question to get one in. Therefore, make the attempt to keep them concise. And of course, if you're typing them in the chat box, that can be concise as well. And simply a reminder for all of you, especially because I'm asking for your participation. You have the ability to ask questions. You have the ability to chat. Your participation will be recorded. So keep in mind, and I'm glad you gave the thumbs up to SK earlier, so we know that you are okay with the presentation being recorded and that is okay with me as well. As a matter of fact, being a speaker, we're in the moment. We don't always get an opportunity to see and hear what was done. It's great to have it recorded. That way I'll be able to see it afterwards. Let's go ahead and start with the first habit. Now, you'll notice I mentioned here that habit number 1 is awareness. Well, I'm saying self-awareness. When you are on the journey of becoming an effective leader, you have to be aware of you. You want to be very aware of your leadership abilities. You want to have that knowledge because anytime you use the Toastmaster environment in particular, in order to help you enhance your leadership abilities, you need to be aware of where the work must be done. I loved hearing in Sonia's speech that she was told by someone around her, someone in her corporate space, that she wasn't an effective leader. She became aware of that comment. She also became aware of what prompted them to mention that to her. And she decided that when she was going to go across the Toastmaster journey or go on that Toastmaster journey, that she would become aware of what she was learning and how she can use what she was learning for her leadership development. I too, that was the same for me. When I was working in corporate America, I started working at a nonprofit foundation. I started there as an administrative assistant. I left there as a mid-level manager. Well, the second place where I worked was a law association. And I tell you, in that first department that I worked in, I had a boss who was preparing me for performance review. And he said, Cassandra, I know you've only been here for 3 months and you're still learning the environment. He said, but I want you to recognize you have to develop your leadership abilities. He said, I can see it. The potential is there and it's on your resume. You've had great leadership opportunities in the past. He said, I'm just seeing you be hesitant with demonstrating yourself as a leader here. He said, and I'm going to chalk it up to the fact that you've only been here for 3 months. Once you learn the environment and you're comfortable working with the team, you will succeed. He said, but I want you to work on your leadership abilities. I, in that performance review, asked him directly, what resources did he recommend? His initial response was, oh, just take any leadership class or read any leadership book. You should be okay with that. Well, I wrote down that suggestion, but I did put a big question mark in my notes. My question mark was representing what leadership book should I read? What leadership course should I take? Well, fortunately for me, a day or so after that conversation, my boss, who actually remembered the question that I asked him, came to me to let me know, have you ever heard about Toastmasters? And did you know Toastmasters helps you to become a better leader? What he was letting me know was the company, the law association, had a Toastmaster club. One of his good friends, who was a director in another department, the two of them had been at lunch and the director was mentioning, hey, I got to get back to the office because I have to prepare my speech for tomorrow's Toastmasters meeting. So he was talking to his friend about Toastmasters and his friend mentioned Toastmasters develops leadership skills. My boss was so excited to come back from work. He got to my desk and that's when he asked me those two questions. Hey, have you ever heard about Toastmasters? And did you know that Toastmaster helps you to become a better leader? Well, that was in October of 1997. My boss and I made a deal. I told him I would go to the meeting as he had encouraged. He recommended that I tell his friend that I was referred by him, and I did. I continued to visit and check out the environment. And notice I said visit with quotation marks, meaning I was observing, I was figuring out, is Toastmasters the right environment for me? Well, I made the decision in January 1998 that I would become an official member of Toastmasters. When I told my boss, he was ecstatic. As a matter of fact, he said, oh, little did you know, We had already prepared for this. I got the requisition ready right now. We're going to pay for your membership. And I said, pay for my membership? He said, oh yeah. He said, I know there is so-and-so amount of dollars at that time. And I think it was only like $18 for every 6 months. He said, but I've already got it approved by the big boss, meaning the director of our department. And my department paid for my membership in Toastmasters starting in January 1998. I worked at that law association for 5 years. I worked in 3 different departments. I was a manager while I was there, and every department paid for my membership. Now, when I left that environment, I had to decide, will I stay with Toastmasters and why? Because the why leads to habit number 2. Habit 2 is purpose. Why are you involved in Toastmasters? Why are leadership skills important for you? See, for me, the initial why was so I could at least take advantage of demonstrating my abilities as a leader in the workplace. The real why was for the next year's performance review. I didn't want to receive a low percentage rate. I was making the attempt to get as high of a percentage I could for the next raise because I knew leadership inabilities were going to affect my paycheck. So that was the initial why for me joining Toastmasters. Yet, why did I stay with Toastmasters, especially after I left that environment in October of 2002? I was no longer associated with the corporate Toastmaster Club. I could have very easily decided, oh, I'm done with Toastmasters. I don't need it anymore. I got from it what I needed to have. Yet that wasn't the case. See, remember October 31st, 2002 was the last day I worked in corporate America. Therefore, I continuously needed the management, the leadership, the supervision, development that Toastmasters provided because I was now running my own business full time. You might have noticed that it was mentioned in my profile or in my introduction, the fact that I've had a chance to be the first district director of District 103. Well, one of the ways that I continuously developed my skills for leadership, management, and supervision was the fact that I started a Toastmaster club. I still manage that Toastmaster club 15 years later, and it's an award-winning club. I also became the first district director for a brand new Toastmaster district. And all of those were tied into the leadership, the management, and the supervision development that I was receiving from Toastmasters. How about you? Why are you in Toastmaster? Why are you thinking about developing your leadership skills for your work environment? What will you gain? And I love asking that last question, what will you gain? Oh, because that's all about habit number 3. Habit number 3 are goals. Goals. I personally believe that goals are what you want to do, be, or have in your life. Goals give you the ability to determine who you want to become, what it is you would like to do, or even what are the things that you want to accomplish. In me joining Toastmaster initially, I knew I wanted to accomplish a comfort level in being a leader. My boss had said, Cassandra, I can see the leadership potential is there, but it's like you're holding back. So I would show it would disappear. I would be a leader and then I would go back into being in my support role. There was a level of inconsistency there. I needed to make certain that I could accomplish demonstrating myself as a strong leader. When my boss recommended I join Toastmasters, I was there. He was ecstatic that I took the recommendation, which is why he had already pre-planned that they would support me in my leadership development. And they were also eyeballing me, everyone. I say eyeballing me. They were watching to see what was I learning in Toastmaster? Was I putting it into practice in the work environment? And they definitely let me know they saw it. As a matter of fact, that next performance review, they told me how impressed they were with my leadership development because they were seeing that I was getting that firsthand experience with it through Toastmasters. What do you want to accomplish? Get clear on that for yourself. If you have to write it down in a journal, do so. If you need to do as I've been doing lately, print it out on a piece of paper and post it on your refrigerator, do that too. The idea is get very clear on what you want to accomplish, then allow Toastmasters to assist you with accomplishing it. Let's take a look now at habit number 4. In the Wrightwood Ashburn Overcomers, also known as the Wayo Toastmasters Club, the club that I started 15 years ago, the club that I still manage. In that environment, we're very conscious of being active and inactive. See, in Toastmasters, we have the term of being an active member or an inactive member. An active member, you can, of course, understand, is a member who's showing up to the meetings, participating in meeting functionary roles, delivering speeches, participating in speech contests, serving as a club leader, meaning any and everything that goes on in a Toastmaster environment, we have active members who engage in all of that. Well, take that concept outside of the Toastmasters environment. Active leaders in the workforce are leaders who are participating in their staff meetings, who are participating in their management meetings. They are also members or employees, team members, project leaders who are being their duties and being someone that others can count on. Being active inside of Toastmasters as well as outside of Toastmasters is very beneficial. Inactive, as we know in Toastmasters, is where you tend to be passive. Now, when I was an employee, I learned a lesson about being passive. I learned to say anything when you basically are just there but silent. They think you don't know something. They think you can't do things. They tend to form a negative perspective about you. We don't ever want that to be the case. Therefore, you want to make certain that you are active inside and outside of the workforce, inside and outside of Toastmasters. Be someone who is actively engaged, participating, involved, making sure you are a part of the experience. When your team, when your bosses, when your management sees that you are active within your job, active within the workplace, they will see that as a plus, as a thumbs up for you, and they will make certain that you're rewarded in some way, shape, or form because of your active involvement. Again, habit number 4 is being active. And as I said, be active in both your work life and your Toastmaster life. Taking a look at habit number 5, that's being organized. I chuckle because I know we have all heard, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Well, as a busy person, I recognize I can't get a lot done if I'm not organized. Being organized means that you are taking into account what's going to help you to be most productive. Everyone has a way in which they're being organized. Sometimes we have to even switch up how we're organized. I just learned about the app called, or the software called Trello, Trello. Someone recommended it to me in one of my boot camp sessions about 2 weeks ago because I made the comment that I am feeling as if I'm so scattered. I got my personal life going on. I have issues that I'm dealing with for family members. I got my homework assignments. I'm dealing with Toastmasters. I'm also in class. It's like, I feel like I have pieces of paper everywhere. In the organization that I used to have, I feel as if I'm losing it, and I want to blame it on Zoom. So everyone kind of chuckled because we were saying how our lives are now revolving around the computer. And even though we're no longer getting in our cars and traveling to places, we're feeling as if we're not as organized as we used to be. So we started giving each other recommendations. And I loved when someone recommended for me Trello. Trello is something now that I'm using to keep track of all of my Toastmasters, all of my business, all of my personal. I'm making sure that I am using the tool to be as organized as I can, so that way I don't have pieces of paper in my purse, my notebook checklist, the scraps of paper around my office, or the wall signs with things on it. I might still have my wall sign because that's big, that's visual, and it's for the most immediate goal. Yet, for all those scraps of paper, oh no, I had to do something with that. I needed to minimize it. Therefore, I'm recognizing with habit of being organized, you may need to go through a reorganization process. So don't be afraid to figure out what organization, system, or resource will work better for you. The idea is, in order to be a highly effective leader inside of Toastmasters or even outside of Toastmasters, you must have a way to be productive. Make certain that you're being organized. Now let's move into habit number 6. We all relate to habit number 6. Most people believe that's what Toastmasters is all about, communication. Well, I want to extend your thinking though on habit number 6 with communication. Yes, I am saying that habit number 6 is communication. Absolutely is going to be communication because we are part of Toastmasters, and that's the primary foundation of Toastmasters, meaning to help us all become better speakers, communicators, and leaders. I personally joined Toastmasters for the leadership development. Communication came along the way. And Sonia even touched on that as well. She joined for leadership development. Communication became a part of it. When I formed WAO, I had to remind the members because at the time we had the manual, and actually we only had one manual. We didn't have the CC and the CL manual or the competent communication and the competent leader manual. We only had one. We had, at the time, it was called the competent Toastmaster manual, or the CTM. The deal was, my members thought when they joined WAO, they were only joining WAO for communication skill development. And I told them then, you're doing both. You cannot do leadership without communication. Communication is a partner to leadership. Communication is so important, everyone, inside and outside of Toastmasters. I want you to be very mindful of how you think, how you speak, how you listen, as well as how you write. See, what we think about, we bring about with the words that we speak. So be very mindful of your thoughts. Therefore, you can have the right language that you speak. Speaking of language, meaning word choice, communication skills. Oh, we are always focusing in on word choice, especially when we put into practice writing speeches and we deliver those speeches. The great thing in Toastmasters, and especially even in Pathways, we get an opportunity to stay mindful of word choice. What are we thinking? What are the words we're speaking? We have assignments that help us to look at word choice. Yet I don't want you to limit it only to thinking and speaking. Also pay attention to how you write. Typing in a chat box through Zoom right now is letting people know your writing abilities. Well, they already knew your writing abilities based on the emails you were sending, the reports you were filling out, or even any posts that you made on social media. Writing skills are important. They are a form of communication. I call them the nonverbal form of communication. People will form perspectives about you and your ability to be effective based on how you think, how you speak, and even how you write. Yet don't forget, they also will form a perspective about you with how well you demonstrate you listen. One of my mentors, and many of you know him, Sporty King, was a part of District 30. Sporty King is a motivational speaker. And one of the key reasons why I love having him as my mentor, my professional speaking mentor to be exact, is because Sporty is someone who reminds me often that listening is just as important as speaking. Listening is just as important as speaking. Listen, practice listening with your family members. Practice listening with your spouse, your significant others. Practice listening in Toastmasters. That's why I love our counter, grammarian, and those speech evaluator roles. They help you to stretch your listening skills. Inside and outside of Toastmasters, oh yeah, you have the ability to communicate. Yet don't forget that it's only habit number 6, and we still have one more to go. With habit number 7, that's all about practice. I know there's a philosophy that says practice makes perfect. No, it doesn't. At least in my opinion, practice does not make perfect. And I say it doesn't make us perfect because we know we get a bad rap for making the attempt to be perfect or having perfectionism. What I also know is if we were perfect, oh, our names would be something other than what it is. And trust me, there is only one perfect person, and that is not us, which means I believe that practice helps us to promote progress. Promoting progress lets us know we will have stumbles, bumbles, issues, mistakes, failures along the way. Yet, what can we do with all of those? We can learn from them. Practice allows us to learn. What I am loving about Pathways right now, especially in level 1, Pathways is teaching you to put into practice what you're learning. Pathways gives you the opportunity with level 1, the evaluation and feedback speech is the one I'm thinking about. You have the opportunity to do a speech on any topic, deliver that speech, get feedback from an evaluator, do that speech a second time, incorporating, practicing the advice that your evaluator gave you. I am seeing resistance in some members, though, who think, oh, I don't want to do that same speech. I want to do a different speech. Although Pathways will allow you to give a different topic and use a different speech for speech number 2 of that assignment, the real benefit comes from practicing what you did before, incorporating what you learned, doing it again, and seeing your results. I tell you, each time I deliver a presentation, I am writing myself notes so I can incorporate that information into the next presentation. When I'm done with today's presentation, I'm going to be preparing what I call my speaker note. Oh yeah, by the way, and Sonia and Calvin, I'll be sending you an evaluation so I can get Pathways credit for this. Yeah, everyone just know I'll be incorporating recommendations from what they give me on the evaluation. I will also be incorporating what I experienced from this moment. Therefore, I can practice it for the next time in which I speak, which technically will be in 3 days. And then after that, in another week and a half. And then after that, 2 more weeks. So I have 3 more Zoom presentations coming up in which I'll be practicing what I'm learning from today. Did you notice how excited I was when I learned how to annotate? Woohoo! That was a practice moment for me. See, what I love about Toastmasters is the fact that we get grace. We receive the level of comfort to be able to stumble, bumble, be unsure, not be 100% perfect here. And once we build our comfort level, we can take that and use it in the workplace. In some work environments, you are made to feel as if making a mistake is the worst thing ever. And I think that's truly unfair. My first boss used to tell us, oh, it's not the end of the world. And woo, you made a mistake. Good. It's a teachable moment. Well, that's what I believe Toastmasters provides all of us. Teachable moments, especially teachable moments about this concept of leadership. 7 habits that we have shared so far that we've taken a look at in this session. Oh, each of those habits you can use in Toastmasters and outside of Toastmasters. Yet the one that I want to continue to stress is this last one. Don't be afraid to put into practice, to test out what you're learning inside and outside of Toastmasters. Here is a recap for us on all of the 7 habits that I've mentioned. And as I said, these are the habits that I believe will help you to be an effective leader at work, in your career, and in Toastmasters. Take a look at those. How many of those do you have? There are 7. Do you have all 7? Or do you have 3 of them? Perhaps you have 5 of them. In the chat box, and remember, I'll see the numbers when I stop this presentation. I want you to put in the chat box how many of these habits you already have so far. You can simply put the number. So if you have 5, put a 5. If you have 2, put a 2. If you have all 7, put a 7. I'm curious to know which of these you are already consistently using, and that will let me know how effective you are currently being as a leader. And remember, I said consistently using. See, all 7 of these habits, when you are consistent with being aware, understanding your purpose, identifying your goals, being active inside and outside of Toastmasters, maintaining your organization, communicating with effectiveness, as well as practicing, you'll definitely be effective. I mentioned I started for leadership development. Some days I have to chuckle when I see myself in a room with an audience and realizing, wow, this is a huge jump for where I used to be. As a matter of fact, even seeing the phrase of leadership legacy series, that is my personal take on leadership lessons that I've learned through my Toastmasters involvement that I have actually written. Hello. So thanks, Sharon, for saying I should be a writer, because I am. I have my own special reports that I've called the Leadership Legacy Series. I started them last year for District 103. They are various articles and reports that I put together on different topics related to club leadership as well as district leadership. Yet some of the reports are for membership. I'm constantly adding to the Leadership Legacy Series, and I've even have some videos that I created for District 30 when I was club retention chair, which I continue to use when I was program quality director. And then I was able to use some of that same insight when I was the district director for District 103. Leadership development. I've been taking in a lot of information. I'm now sharing information out. I have quick tip videos on recruitment and retention for club vice presidents of membership and club vice president of public relations that they can use, and even education VPs or even the club presidents, meaning a lot of the leadership information I'm now sharing in various forms, videos and reports as well. One of my final goals that I have, because remember, I was before that audience, I had my hand raised, I was asking them a question, demonstrating that I want them to show with a raised hand what their response was. My colleague who snapped that picture loved that picture. She said, I'm so glad I got the picture of you with your hand raised before they started all raising their hand, because your Toastmaster logo would have been blocked. She said, I think it's so cool that you always show and tell people you are a part of Toastmasters. And the final goal that I have with Toastmasters, or I shouldn't say final goal, but my next goal that I have in Toastmasters is to demonstrate to them that I am a speaker, a leader, a motivator, a facilitator by earning the accredited speaker award. Therefore, if you have any opportunities where you know I can be hired to speak by a non-Toastmaster group, let me know. You'll find my contact information is on my website. Also on my website rather, at divaofdialog.com, you will find the Leadership Legacy series on the Toastmaster page of my website. And when we move into the chat box, I'm going to make certain that I provide to you a special takeaway handout of the tips. My contact information will be on that slide as well. And everyone, because this is now the moment in which I would like to make certain I can get into some Q&A with you, I am going to definitely look in the chat box. Calvin, if you can also assist me, right now I'm seeing 5s and 4s and a few 3s there. If you can make certain, Calvin, if there are any questions that I might have missed as I scroll through, let me know if there are any questions that anyone has. And of course, if you do have a question, feel free to unmute your microphone and let me know.
Cassandra, there are no previous questions. However, I think there was some conversation about Trello. So if
Okay.
you could tell them where to find Trello at.
Trello.com. As a matter of fact, when I found it, as I was in my coaching session, I went to Google. I actually just went to my browser. They spelled it. I typed it in. The first choice came up. It was their actual website, Trello.com. If you said there is an app too, thanks, Valerie. So Valerie is letting us know there's an app that you can also use on your mobile device. I use it primarily on my laptop simply because that's what I'm plugged into most of the day. So thanks for that. SK, I noticed that you asked how much time do I dedicate into Toastmasters? Now you do realize that's a loaded question, right, SK? Because for me, I'm at different levels in Toastmasters. When I started out as a member, I would say about 2 hours a week. I'm now in leadership outside of the club level, which means I put in a lot more time. I have, speaking of being organized, I have what I call SK Wayo Wednesday. Wayo Wednesday means that Wednesday is the day in the week that I would focus primarily on Wayo Toastmaster work. And that was because I was primarily in Wayo at the time. When I moved into district leadership, I just simply made it my Toastmaster day. So I would work on Wayo assignments in the morning, whether I was doing VPE work or president work or secretary work or treasurer work, or even preparing my speeches for the next time I would be on the agenda. I would make sure that Wednesday was the day that I dedicated time to focus on Wayo Toastmasters. And then eventually it became District 30 Toastmasters and now District 103 Toastmasters. And of course, when I was in the trio, the hours expanded because we had multiple meetings. So I was doing meetings for teams and projects and that sort of thing. And now that I am not in the trio anymore, I'm simply in the advisory role. A lot of that dedicated time has ended. So I still, though, have my Wayo Wednesday. So whether it's 4 hours, 2 hours, or the entire day, that is the day I'm going to dedicate to doing Toastmaster assignments. Let me see, Valerie, I think I see a comment that you put in. You say, how much time did you spend on your business while working in corporate America? Every afternoon. My lunch break, Valerie, was my work time for my business. After work, I worked on it. On the weekends, I worked on it as well. Meaning, one of my mentors told me that when you are the CEO of your own business, you have to make time to work your business. So I used my lunch breaks, and I literally took my lunch on a different floor. That way I could go journal, I could read, I could research. I had appointments. There were things that I did every single day and I say 4 years because I was at the Law Association for 5, but it was in year 4, or year number 2 rather, when I started to really focus on using that advice. Every single day, I worked my business. You say, what is the name of your club? How is it spelled? W-A-O is the initial. Type in your browser, W-A-O Toastmasters Club, and it will pop up Wrightwood, Ashburn Overcomers, Toastmasters Club. So W-A-O. How to improve writing skills. Any resources available? Absolutely. You know, I would say Grammarly.com. Grammarly.com, Grammarly. Grammarly.com is one of those resources that you can use to improve your writing skills. That way, and I'm thinking about Grammarly because of emails. I mean, many times we're writing and we need that immediate correction. Grammarly will not only give you the correction, it's going to tell you why that answer is correct. We don't have a lot of time to go back to school, if you will. You will find that it is going to be a quick in the moment learning opportunity. And that's why I recommend Grammarly.com highly. If you wanted to receive a resource, check into the Greg reference manual. That's also another good resource to use for your writing skill as well. But in this mobile environment, virtual, Grammarly works well. Let's see, do you have to input that Grammarly? Do we have to input that Grammarly? I think Grammarly may need to be installed, if that's the question that you're asking. It may need to be installed. Valerie, I see you have a second question. How long does it take for your business to go full-time to leave corporate America? It depends on you, Valerie, and it depends upon your business. No cut and dry answer on that. For me, it wasn't time for me to leave. When I thought about leaving to have my own business, it literally was December of 1997. Remember, I had that conversation with my boss in October 97. By the time it was December, I was ready to go work for myself, but it wasn't time. So it really depends on you. I think I might be getting close to my time. Okay, and Sonia, I see you. Look at me knowing how to pin. One more minute. Good, good. So I'm looking, let's see, one of the leadership skills you mentioned is being active. How to balance that with not being perceived as too active at work? Well, make certain that when you're active at work, Rupa, that you're being very strategic with what you're involved in. There will be some assignments or some responsibilities that you won't be able to do simply because of the time commitment. So don't be afraid to say no. Don't be afraid to let people also recognize that you may have to take on something at a later time. But being too active, being perceived as too active, I would also end with my statement of, is that your perception or is that their perception? Because see, if it's their perception, they can have that perception all day long. If it's my perception, then I need to make certain I'm figuring out why I think I'm being too active and what I need to do in order to pull back some. So I simply wanted to thank all of you. Great comments. I am out of time, everyone. Yeah, I will place in the chat box for you that gift, that token, and I appreciate the opportunity. Mr. Toastmaster, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Cassandra, for that great presentation. There was a lot of takeaways. I think we all appreciate it, and we definitely have some things to take away that can be used right away